everyone. My name is Lauren, and I'm an Enterprise Customer Success Manager with Jotform. Today, for our Lunch and Learn, we'll be diving into all things submission tables. I will be taking you on an exciting journey through creating tables, from importing data to these tables, all the way to editing and sharing this data with other users in your enterprise server. I will also guide you through the vast terrain of customizing the look and feel of submission tables and their subsequent tabs, including pulling and linking information from various forms, as well as using multiple views to see data in its most digestible form. Before concluding our exciting tour through the jungle of submission tables, I'm a big fan of metaphors, if you couldn't tell. We'll also go on a quick side quest to discuss the use of columns to best optimize and analyze your submission data. Your mission today, should you choose to accept it, is to sit back, relax, and let me show off this amazing system and all of its super helpful features to allow you and your organization to easily review, sort, and evaluate the data you receive as submissions from your forms. One last thing before we get fully started. The enterprise server we're working in today is not HIPAA enabled, so there may be some differences when it comes to sharing, viewing, and especially downloading the data from a submission table within a HIPAA environment versus the standard enterprise environment we're using today. If you do have any specific questions regarding HIPAA compliance in submission tables, please contact our support team for further assistance. With all that being said, we're going to be covering a lot in this session, so it will be recorded, and we'll reserve some time towards the end of the presentation for questions as well. So let's actually get started for real this time. Building forms is only half the process, but what happens to the data after it's submitted by your end users and respondents? So glad you asked. It's stored within a submission table. Off the bat, a Jotform submission table appears just like another run-of-the-mill spreadsheet, but it's actually quite far from that. Like life, a submission table is really all about what you make it, and no two tables are truly the same. There are so many diverse options to best manage this data in line with your organization's processes. We'll be going over a majority of them today, but as with everything I demo or train on, I think hands-on learning will always teach best. I encourage everyone to take some time to review your current tables and play around with them to find ways that any of the features I mentioned today can be used to your advantage. The examples I'm using during this session are just one of a near infinite amount of ways that these tools can be applied to your data review process. So without further ado, let's hop into our test environment and actually show you these features I've spent all of this time hyping up. For our example today, I've already set up a form and collected my responses. With the submission table, information is automatically updated each time a new submission is received. This will allow a live look at submission information as it is captured. If you are a newer user to Jotform or have response data in an outside source, we promise not to leave you high and dry. You do have options to upload an Excel or CSV file directly into a tab of an existing table. You can do this by clicking Add Tab, selecting Table, and choosing to import data over here. This will create an additional tab with uploaded information. We will circle back to tabs and their use a bit later in the presentation as well, but for the sake of our example, I've already uploaded my data, which you can see here. This data that was once on a spreadsheet on my device is now easily accessible within my form submission table. We also do have a handy tool called the Import Submissions app. This will allow you to directly import data from a spreadsheet onto your original submissions list as if they were submissions made on the form itself. For information on accessing the Import Submission app, please feel free to reach out to our team so we can provide you with your own custom link to access this helpful tool. One of the many perks of using an enterprise system is that all of the information within a submission table can be easily shared among other licensed users within your server. This will allow the necessary parties in your organization to access, analyze, manipulate, and report on the data when needed. As an admin, you have the ability to limit and monitor access, ensuring that only relevant users can see the information that pertains to them. Sharing can be managed in one of two ways. Up here in the top right-hand corner, we have the handy dandy share button. This will allow you to manually share the table information with other licensed users in your system. When sharing, you can enter the user's email address and select their permissions. For example, a read-only user would only be able to see the data, but not update the data itself, while the collaborator role will be able to view data, edit the submission data, but not update the table settings in any way. The other option for sharing is to move the form into a team. Although teams are available in our single user accounts, Jotform Enterprise is where teams really shine. Teams are a great way to easily work with your peers and other server licensed users regarding your submission data. You can add and organize your users among teams in which forms and their subsequent submission data is shared. For users in a team with roles like data collaborator, data viewer, and team admin, they can easily access the submission data they need without requiring each table to be manually shared with them. A quick side note on teams, the team admin role can be granted to a non-admin user in the server, granting them more definitive rights within the team, but not within the server itself. This easily allows users to manage and share data with a larger group all at once to review any and all submission data in a collaborative space. A table that belongs to a team will always be denoted with the team selected icon right next to the title. Speaking of collaborating, the submission table is a great place to edit collected data on a form. A user with succinct permissions can pop open a submission, select edit, and update the information as needed within the submission and resubmit the form. There is also the option to click directly within a cell on the table and manually update or add information to the existing form's elements. With the vast ability for users to which the table is shared to edit the data, there are a few places in which these changes are tracked. The first of those being the revision history of the table. This is accessed by clicking the last updated text underneath the table's title. The revision history will allow an admin to review any updates made to the tables, including both the addition of a new submission row or the manipulation of data by a shared user. This will also give you the option to revert the table to a previous state if needed. Also, within the admin console, there is the ability to review which users are editing submissions so you are able to track and follow up if need be. This information is accessed via the activity log, which I already have pulled up here. The admin console, as a reminder, can be accessed by clicking your avatar in the top right-hand corner and selecting admin console. Remember when I said that by default, a submission table may look like just another run-of-the-mill spreadsheet, but it's actually so much more? These next features to update the look and feel of your table are exactly what I was referring to. Within the table, you can include as many tabs as you need to best organize your information. These tabs can include an uploaded spreadsheets information, as we've previously discussed, specific filtered data from your original data set, data linked from another form's table, as well as different views of your already collected data to be able to easily review and manage the information. Filtering is a great way to pull up a set of data within specific parameters. For this example, I want to find all of the submissions that entered addresses in Florida. I can use the filter button on the search bar up here to add this criteria for addresses that include FL. Once the filter has scanned and is displaying the results within my criteria, it will give me the option to create a new tab containing just that information, which I've already created for the sake of our example. But you can click this Create a Tab button to do so yourself. You also have the option to group data within a table based on criteria. For example, I can select my multiple choice column right here, click Group By. This will, for lack of a better word, group my submissions based on selections made in the multiple choice option from my form. Again, similar to the filter, this will populate the option to allow you to add new tabs for each of these groupings. New tabs do not only have to be created within a filter or group, they can also be created manually by clicking Add Tab just up here. For example, I started with a generic table, which I've elected to just use this form's submission data in a new tab. From here, I can change the view by clicking on these three stacked dots and clicking Change Type. For the sake of our example today, I've created a calendar view. This is a great way to organize data based on dates and times selected on a form, such as for appointments. I've also gone ahead and added a card view. This is a great and easy way to view each submission and any potential file uploads individually. There's also the option to add reports in separate tabs for the further analysis of your data. For more information on reporting, you can check out the previously streamed Lunch and Learn on our report builder. With additional tabs, you can also link another form's data. To do this, when selecting Add tab, you will just click Connect to Form and select the form from your list. In this example, I've already linked another form in my system. This allows me to easily navigate between the tabs to review form information. When the form is a team, however, the selection must be of another form within the team workspace. This helpful feature creates an all-in-one hub to review submission information for multiple forms in one place. Later, I'll also touch on ways to actually combine the data using columns on a singular tab. Actually, I think I'll go to columns right now. By default, the submission table will contain all of the columns that pertain to elements in which your form's data is collected. The list of columns can be found here. You have the ability to add and remove columns based on the need for visibility of specific information. Each of these tabs are independent of each other, meaning updating a column in my default tab will not affect the information in the other tabs. This is especially helpful when managing multiple views. In order to best analyze information, you may find that you need more data than what was actually collected on your form. For this, you can manually add columns for a variety of different uses. Columns can be added by clicking the Add Column button here, or the Add button in the blank far right column. Let's walk through the column options together. Starting over at the right, there are connection columns. As I mentioned previously, when another form submission information is added to a tab on the table, you have the ability to create connection columns to pair the information as needed. In this example, I've added a connection column to the test form. This will tie together a submission from the primary form to the secondary form submission data if needed. Moving over to the next tab, we have button columns. This can be especially helpful if any specific tasks need to be completed after submission data is reviewed. This can manually push out an email specific form with pre-filled information if you'd like, as well as manually push data to a third-party app via webhooks or a direct integration. In my example, I created a send email button. When clicked, this will send a customized email containing necessary information to my respondent. After clicked, it will track the date and time it was sent, as well as give me the option to resend if needed. The next tab over contains formula options. Though I'm not much of a math whiz myself, I find that in my own testing and work within Jotform, these columns can come in handy to calculate information and display it within a reportable column. Finally, we have basic columns. These will typically be manually filled in by licensed users that have editable access to the table. These are similar to the elements on a form and include options such as short text, single selection, date, time, and so many more. The attachment option may be of interest to you if there are any manually added attachments needed for each specific submission. In my example, I added a short text option in which a user with access, which I am, I can add information directly onto a submission for other users to review. For me, I just added some additional notes with my name. Whew, I know that was a lot. Does anyone feel like they're all tabled out? I hope not, because this is just the beginning of all of the things you can use your submission tables to your advantage. Today, we discussed the various features of tables and how your organization can really optimize your data analysis by employing even just some of these many functions. We started at the top discussing what a table is, how the information can be collected, how the information can be shared amongst your server's users and within a team environment. We took a look at various options for filtering and updating the layout of the data to ensure that it can be easily viewed and reported upon based on your individual processes. Finally, we reviewed options for utilizing columns within the tables to connect another form's submission data, as well as manually add data visible to only those with access to the table. As I said, this is really only the beginning of the ability to use submission tables within your Jotform Enterprise server. Again, I encourage you to take what we've discussed today and apply it to your own tables to further improve the efficiency of your process. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat or the Q&A if you have not already. I see a question here that came in that says, is there a way to create a view of a table that turns rows into columns like a pivot table in Excel? That I would need to test out and double check with my team. I'm not currently aware of a way to do that, but I will double check and follow up after the webinar is over. Is there an easy way to find duplicate entries? Yes, sort of. It kind of depends on the criteria in which you're looking for a duplicate. With data, I didn't really touch on this within the presentation, but you do have the option to download the data. Let me pop back over to my handy dandy table. You do have the option to download data to an Excel or CSV file. That will kind of back to the pivot table question, if you do export your data or send it to Excel via Power Automate or another third-party application, you may be able to have that functionality a little bit easier. But as far as finding duplicates, you can filter by a specific criteria if you're looking for a specific duplicate. You can also filter by maybe submission IP or something like that to sort it so you can see if multiple came from the same submission IP. There's like a ton of ways within a table to really, really kind of filter the information, customize the information views. The next question was, can you confirm that adding a column will not interfere with any new submissions that are entered? Correct. So you can add one of those manual columns I went over, such as the short text example column. That's only going to be visible to those licensed users with access to the table. So that's really more of like an internal process and won't affect the actual submission made by the end user or respondent. That will be more so, like I said, an internal use. Those that have access to the table will be able to review that. But as a respondent, if I do have, let's say, edit access to my own submission or can view that own submission, I wouldn't be able to see that information that was entered manually onto the table column. And then the other question was, is this webinar being recorded? Yes, it is. It will also be posted to our YouTube channel. So if you did hop on late, you can reference anything I discussed. Can you trigger auto response emails when you edit data in the table? These are such good questions. There's not a way to edit when editing data in the table. There's not a way, if you're editing a manual column, to trigger an automatic response. However, if you're updating a submission by popping out the entry here, clicking edit, and actually going to the form itself, you can configure a specific autoresponder or notification email to only be sent when a submission is when a submission is edited. That way, if someone does come on here and edit the submission, it will trigger that notification or autoresponder email that is only set up to send when a submission is edited. And just to reiterate again, and I will go back to our handy dandy PowerPoint. One common question we do see is, does someone have to be a licensed user in the system in order to view the table data? Yes. Currently, anyone that's given access to a private table must be a licensed user with a unique login and password to access and then potentially edit, if they're given those permissions, the data. We do have the option to set a table public, but there is more ability to monitor and control the access of a private table. A public table will be visible by anyone who has the direct link. So there's not really a way to monitor who's actually accessing the table via that link, because they don't need to have a Jotform account to view a public table. So we always recommend, for privacy of data, to keep tables private and only sharing with the licensed users on your server. If there are no other questions, I just wanted to thank everyone again for being here with me today. On our next session together, which is Wednesday, September 20th, we'll be talking everything advanced tables. So we'll be taking everything we learned today and adding to it by going over some more advanced features of Jotform tables. If you do have any other questions that we didn't get to today, please reach out to our enterprise sales team or our awesome customer support team if you are already an enterprise user. You can find more Lunch and Learns, webinars, walkthrough, and quick video guides also on our YouTube channel and our website. We will have some great Lunch and Learn sessions coming up that will build upon each other. So please ensure that you're registered for these sessions at jotform.com/enterprise/lunch and learn sessions. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again at our next session. Have a great rest of your day.